Greetings, everyone. Today, I'm going to be talking about some tips, some advice, sharing advice. This month is the day I'm recording this is July 16th, 2023, and July is my vegan anniversary. I'm celebrating 11 years during this month, and I'm going to be talking about just advice for those of you that might be struggling. If you are considering going vegan and you are struggling, if you have gone plant-based, vegetarian, and you've been off and on for a while, if you haven't tried it yet, but it's been something you've been thinking about, I'm just going to give you some realistic and practical advice just from my own personal experience, from just me being vegan personally, and just even advice that I've given to people that I've worked with. Okay, so I have a list here. I have some notes and I'm just going to run through those things. And for those of you, either if you're here live or if you are catching the replay of this video and you have questions that you want me to answer, you can post them in the comments and I will be sure to answer those questions. All right. So the first thing is, what would I change if I had to start my journey all over again? I think one of the biggest things is finding a community, finding people that are in alignment with the thing that you're wanting to do, that you're wanting to move towards, because you can't expect the people that you that are in your immediate circle, your family, your friends, to be on board with what you're deciding to do. It's a lot easier now to find these groups compared to what it was looking like 11 years ago, especially if you are Black, brown, person of color, or something like that, like to finding those groups for people that identify with you in multiple ways. It's a lot easier to find that now. What I wish I knew before going vegan. So one of the things is, I wish I would have known more about the perspective of veganism and what this looks like from the perspective of the BIPOC community, of the LGBTQ plus community, because veganism in itself is very white, and it still is. Again, there's a lot more diversity now because veganism has become a lot more mainstream, but still, if you don't identify as a white person, you're going to notice that it is very white. And so having that perspective from someone that identifies with you on multiple levels, I feel like that would be really important, especially when it comes to the aspect of social justice and anti-oppression, because veganism tends to be very singular focused on this aspect of animal rights. And if you identify as someone from the BIPOC community, we have other issues going on systemically, and that tends to not be something that they address. Let's see what I have done for the past 11 years to maintain being vegan. So here's the thing. Preparing for my schedule and my current lifestyle. So if you're already busy now, going vegan is not going to change how busy you are or what you have going on in your life. And you have to accommodate what you're kind of already doing. If you don't like cooking now, maybe you're not going to like cooking, or at least not initially. You might get that honeymoon phase of trying all these different things. And then after a while, you're like, okay, I don't have time for all this. So one of the ways that I've maintained being vegan for this long is adapting my habits and behaviors to my current situation, right? And that changes. So depending on what's going on in your life, are you working full time? Are you a full-time student? Do you have kids and you have to manage all of that? How are you currently doing those things? And what things can you do when it comes to the meals where you can switch those things over? So having quick meals, backup meals, things that you can just reheat versus feeling like you have to cook everything from scratch. You don't have to do that. Like, there's a lot more options now compared to before, compared to 11 years ago anyway. Let's see. Another thing I've done is, as far as maintaining it, is figuring out what restaurants that I already liked and seeing what options that they have. Again, this is a lot easier now compared to what it was 11 years ago. But start mapping those things out now, especially when it comes to the social aspect. You want to go out with your friends and family and stuff like that. What does that look like for you? What options do they have? You can call the restaurant, ask the manager. These are things that I've done to make it easy. So that way, if I'm out and about and I just want to go grab something, I already kind of know what's around me. And based on what I currently have going on, based on my current routes from going from to and from the different places, that's another way to kind of to maintain. Where are some places that have options that you can eat along with your friends that aren't vegan or vegetarian, that they can eat as well? Because one of the issues is the social thing, and feeling isolated and feeling like you can't really do the things that you were normally doing with your friends and family that have no intention of going vegan or vegetarian, don't want to, never will, right? And might be talking smack about you for doing it, right? How can you still maintain some of those experiences? So it's finding those places that can accommodate both. Vegan versus your health and fitness goals. So this is where I've come across a lot of people that tend to struggle here. So one thing to be clear about is, if do you already have did you already have health and fitness goals before deciding to go vegan? Or is going vegan a part of your health and fitness goal? Because a lot of times there's like a lack of clarity around that. And so if you feel like, if you're deciding to go vegan or vegetarian or plant-based because you want that to be your health goal, like, why do you want that to be the health goal? Because I would actually suggest that that is not a good reason to go vegan or vegetarian or plant-based. Is just for a specific fitness goal or health goal. Because you need to think about this, because what is the specific thing? Is it weight loss? Is it you want to lower your blood pressure? Is it you want more energy? What are those things? There are things that you can start doing now before transitioning to a vegan lifestyle. Those are things you can start doing now. There's different things that you can start changing. And when it comes to movement, incorporating more movement or changing some of how you're eating, start doing that before you make the change. And the reason why I'm saying that, and a lot of people, I've gotten to arguments with other vegans about this, because I'm not here to convince anybody to go vegan. These are for you. This is for you if this is something you want to do, or you've been going back and forth about. It's like, if you haven't made those changes now, you're still going to have the same problems when you go vegan, is what I'm saying. So it comes to habits and behaviors and belief. If you feel like the only way that you can lose weight, the only way that you can reduce your blood pressure is by completely changing, it's like, you can get those benefits, but is it going to be sustainable for you? Because then what happens when the blood pressure goes down? What happens when the weight goes down? And then what? How long is this going to be sustainable for you? Because I've seen this happen many times. People do it, this 90-day stint, this 6-month thing to get to this goal, and then they start going back to what they were doing before. So you're not actually identifying with becoming vegan. You're using that as a vehicle to reach a specific thing. And there's things you can start doing now to move towards that, is what I'm saying. So this isn't to discourage anyone from doing one thing or the other, but just be clear that you can start changing your behaviors now. Because if a veganism should not be a health or fitness, it should not be like a fitness goal. I've seen too many people trying to just do it to lose weight, and then they don't see the results that they want, or they don't know what they're doing. And then they're like, oh, going vegan doesn't work. It's because your habits and behaviors and your reasoning is off. It's out of alignment. So yeah. So just think about what your current goals are. If you're not already doing it now, I would encourage you to start doing those things now. Incorporate more movement, whatever that is. If it's walking, if it's yoga, if it's weight training, if it's Pilates, meditating, whatever, right? Add in some new things versus trying to focus on omitting certain things, right? So maybe you're just reducing eating out as much or reducing eating as much fried foods. Like start doing those things now before trying to make that change. And that will also start building confidence. And so this goes into my last thing, which is tips for people struggling with going vegan or plant-based. Break down the struggle. Break down the struggle. Like, what area are you struggling with? Are you struggling with lack of consistency? If you're not being consistent and you keep going off like, oh, you know, I did that vegan thing for a little while. Oh, I'm kind of doing this. Then it's either a belief issue, it's an environment issue, or it's an unclear, you're unclear on your purpose, on why you're actually doing this. And what I've noticed now is veganism is very trendy right now. And there's all types of stuff out here now that makes it a lot easier to go vegan. But there's a lot of vegan junk food out here too. Not that there's anything wrong with junk food or anything else, but be clear on what you're doing it for. So going back to my previous point about if you're trying to go vegan as a health, as a fitness or health goal, I don't recommend doing that. Start your journey now before going vegan. Like, what are things that you can do right now? How can you adjust things in your diet right now and in your behaviors right now? Because if you're just doing it, then you're not really clear on your purpose. What is the bigger meaning? Is this something that you want to do for the long term, or is you doing this as a diet or trend or fad thing? And neither one is wrong, but it's just saying, like, when it comes to the results, when it comes to consistency, it's going to be easy for you to fall off if the reason for it is not strong. So when it comes to environment, right? So if you're struggling with consistency, environment. So you haven't done anything in your physical environment, in your home, the people that you're around, the places that you go. You haven't changed or adapted or adjusted your environment to align with the lifestyle that you are wanting to move towards. And that's going to be a huge thing, because if you keep all the same stuff around you, it's going to be easy to fall off and just go back to what you were doing before, because you haven't added or included anything in your environment, at work, in your refrigerator, at home, wherever, to remind you and to inspire you, to motivate you to keep doing the thing, right? To keep you going. So that's going to be a huge thing. And if there's people that continuously, and sometimes it'd be your own people, it'd be your family, it'd be your own people. If they don't support you, if they're talking shit about you, they're actually discouraging you, if they're projecting their beliefs and their fears and their assumptions on you, then yeah, it's going to be hard for you to stay consistent, because you're allowing that to get in the way. And it's a thing, right? If you already don't have enough confidence, a lot of confidence in making these changes, and this is very common for when you're new. I experienced this too, right? Then people are going to start saying, oh, why are you going to do that? Everybody becomes a nutritionist, right? When you start to make changes, then it's one of those things where this is where having a community is really going to be important. Finding resources that can keep you motivated and help you build that confidence, which is, again, a lot easier now. And so another thing for lack of consistency is belief. If you don't believe in yourself enough to do it, if you don't believe in like the reason that you want to do it in the first place, if you're doubting yourself, then yeah, that's going to create that lack of consistency. So you have to continuously reinforce your belief. You have to reinforce the things that you're moving towards. And with any sort of change, I talk about this a lot in previous videos on my channels. I'm multi-streaming right now. But the thing is, anytime you're trying to make a change in your life, any sort of lifestyle change, any sort of behavior change, it's going to be uncomfortable. There's going to be times where you doubt yourself. There's going to be times where you are moving towards a new belief. And in the interim, right, going from your old self to your new self, you're still that belief isn't fully formed yet. You're still trying to nurture that foundation, and it can be it's a very fragile time. And so if people that are around you, so going back to your environment, right, if they're not supportive of that, then it's best to keep them out of that. Don't say anything to anybody. Find people that are going to be supportive of you, and sometimes that's virtually. Finding people online, blogs, YouTube channels, things like that, that's going to keep inspiring you until you start continuously reinforcing the behavior as you solidify your belief. And I hope that makes sense, right? Because you're not going to have action is going to help reinforce your belief. The more actions that you take towards that new belief that you're forming and that you are wanting to identify with, the more actions that you take towards it, the more it helps solidify that belief within yourself and helps build that confidence. And it doesn't matter if it's what the thing is, but that's a very important aspect, especially when it comes to lack of consistency, because it's easier to go back to who you were before and what's familiar. And the familiar version of yourself isn't always what's best for you. It's just easy to do what you used to do because you don't have to think about it. So the other aspect is when it comes to tips for people struggling, the other aspect is you don't know what to eat. That's another thing. You don't know what to eat. So part of this requires planning and testing. So you have to try new things. Think about some of the things that you already enjoy, and how can you make some of those swaps. There's all types of resources out there right now where you can find ways to replace certain ingredients in some of your favorite foods. And you can easily find that anywhere. You can Google that, you can find that easily. So that's the first thing, is just planning some things out and then actually testing it. So when it comes to testing, trying different products, but also just sticking with the basics. Don't feel like you have to go out and try all these like vegan manufactured foods, right? Stick to like the basics of things. And by basics, meaning fruits, vegetables, grains. Okay. You can have legumes, seitan, tofu, if you want to go that route. There's different ways that you can be vegan or plant-based. And that's something you don't feel like you have to pick one way right out the gate. Allow yourself to explore. If you want to be alkaline, like maybe that's what you want to move toward, but try a little bit of everything. Allow yourself to kind of have fun with it and explore before just identifying with one aspect. And sometimes we pressure ourselves into feeling like we have to be one way or another, but you really don't. Allow yourself to explore, because that's what's going to help you step outside the box when it comes to feeling stuck with not knowing what to eat. And something to think about is, do you currently struggle with what to eat? If you're on the fence about going vegan, or you've been struggling with it, is this something that you've always had an issue with? Or is it just as you're going into this new phase? And just start looking at what you're currently eating. What are you currently consuming? And what are some changes that you can make? What are some swaps that you can make to make that meal vegan or vegetarian or plant-based? That's the first place to start. Start where you are. Don't feel like you have to completely reinvent the wheel. Yeah. And so some frequently asked questions that I tend to get is, should you go all in? Should you like just completely get rid of everything? Or should you like take time and pace yourself? I would say it depends. It depends on where you're at in your journey in your life, right? I mentioned earlier that when it comes to going vegan as a health or fitness goal, that I don't recommend that being the reason, the sole reason that you go vegan or vegetarian. However, sometimes you have some serious health concerns, and changing your diet and becoming more plant-based, becoming vegan can significantly improve your health issues. So if you are in a situation like that where you've been to the doctor, you have all these different things going on, and everything is pointing towards like you're going to significantly improve um, or reduce your health risks. If you are at like a high risk level of health issues, and then I would say, yeah, start adopting it sooner. If you are at a point where that doesn't work for you, if you need more time to adjust, especially when it comes to the belief aspect that I talked about earlier, then take your time. Just remove certain things a little bit at a time. Because what's that going to do? It's not going to be the body. The body doesn't, it's not, the body is not the issue, right? Your body is going to adapt and adjust. It's your mindset, it's your emotions and your belief. And taking it the slower route, that's going to help you adjust when it comes to your belief and your mindset and your behaviors. So yeah, it just depends on where you are and what you need. What is most, yeah. For me, I made a switch pretty quickly. I did a cleanse first without even knowing. My intention was not to actually go vegan at all. My intention was to just stop consuming dairy, and then by the end of it, I decided to make that change. Um, but yeah, I often don't recommend going 100% all in right at once. But sometimes it works for certain people. So it just depends on where you're at. It's usually more sustainable to pace yourself unless you have like a significant issue, or you have that type of personality where you are ready to just completely see a complete transformation and you want to see it quickly, then yeah, go all in. Um, so another frequently asked question, especially when it comes to like pacing yourself, like, okay, if you had to do one or the other, meat or removing meat first or removing dairy first, which one would you do? I would recommend get rid of the dairy first. Get rid of the dairy first. And the reason why is because there are so many issues especially within the Black and brown community, that dairy has negative effects on our bodies in so many different ways. So I would, especially when it comes to um, just mucus buildup, dairy creates a huge issue, and most of the times we are often lactose intolerant anyway. So that's what I recommend removing first. Start with removing dairy. If you had to go one versus the other, I would say remove the dairy first. And dairy, that's cheese, milk, animal-based milk, animal-based yogurts. There's so many different options out there now. So that's what I would do. Should you go pescatarian first? With pescatarian, sometimes a lot of times I recommend pescatarian. I've done this a lot with my clients that are wanting to incorporate more of a plant-based lifestyle. They want to reduce the amount. So I'm an advocate for, again, I'm not here to convince anybody to do one thing or another. Like, do what you want to do, right? But if you're wanting to just reduce the consumption, then pescatarian is often a good balance for a lot of people, and it can be very sustainable, a good transition point. So that tends to work well for a lot of people going pescatarian. And I've seen, at least for the clients that I've worked with, I've seen that be very sustainable for them compared to just going 100% vegan or going vegetarian. And for me, like when it comes to vegetarian, the biggest challenge is with all the dairy. So going vegetarian, a lot of vegetarians eat a lot of dairy products, and these animal-based dairy products are creating a lot of issues with mucus buildup in the body. issues with, for those of you that menstruate, when it comes to your cycle, lots of issues with that. When it comes to your skin, a lot of issues with that. So just something to keep in mind. But one thing that's not included, so when it comes to eggs, right? So sometimes we kind of throw eggs in the category of dairy, but if you decide that you want to continue to eat eggs, like eat eggs, be pescatarian, eat fish and eggs, I feel like that's a good transition point, and then you can eventually like reduce the eggs or whatever. Do what feels good for you. But yeah, just reduce the dairy. Get rid of that completely. Let's see what else. And if there's any questions, you can post your questions in the comments and I can respond to those later. So when it comes to supplements, that's another frequently asked thing. Like, what supplements do you take? Like, are you taking supplements now? What supplements are you taking now? like what are you doing now? Because whatever you're doing now, like, just think about what you're doing right now and how that's going to transition. So if you're taking like, and what kills me is that when people be asking me these questions and they've never ever taken a supplement, now they feel like, oh, but what about the supplements and what about this? Have you ever thought about this before? Have you ever thought about what you've been consuming before? If you have not, all I'm saying is, before you make the switch, start paying attention to what you're consuming now. So me, for example, I was taking supplements well before I went vegan. I was consuming protein powder, amino acids, multivitamins. I was already doing this stuff. So if this is something that you're concerned with, the question is this something where did the doctor tell you that you have a deficiency in something? So even before going vegan, I had issues with low vitamin D. And that tends to be common whether you consume meat or not, because we're not outside as much. So when I was in the military, I was outside a lot more. And so that was a huge thing. So depending on your lifestyle and things like that, do you already have certain deficiencies or things that tend to be low already? Have you even tracked that before? Because you'll hear things online like, oh, well, if you go vegan, then you're going to not going to have enough of this and not going to have enough of that. Have you paid attention to this before? If not, then these are things to start paying attention to and seeing kind of what your levels are at. Get your blood work done before you go vegan, before you go plant-based, before you see what your levels are at right now. So that way you have something to base it off of. So that way you're not looking at like what all these people are telling you online, and you're going based off of where you are currently at. And then if you're getting recommendations from your doctor that you need, that your levels are low, then you can take certain supplements, right? We often tend to focus a lot on vitamins, but I actually highly encourage minerals. Increase your mineral consumption. And so by minerals, foods that are high in certain minerals, magnesium, potassium, and things like that, are very, very beneficial. And that's something that so again, if you have not taken supplements before, it can feel very overwhelming. I was already taking supplements well before. So if you are already taking supplements, then switch to the vegan or vegetarian version of that supplement. Greetings. How are you? We have to catch up. It's been for a long time. Yes, the hair has gotten very long. Thank you so much. So just something to keep in mind. Oftentimes I would recommend doing like a protein powder for anyone. I've recommended this to my clients only for those when it comes to something that works for their lifestyle. If you don't like eating breakfast, okay, then don't eat breakfast. But if you need the calories, a lot of times we're not eating enough calories or not enough of the right macros macro load for like what you're consuming. So you're either eating not enough protein, too much fat, or whatever. And a great a great convenient way to get some of those calories in, and to balance out your macros, and just have to have get more nutrients, not just vitamins but minerals, is to have some sort of a shake or a smoothie, something that's nutrient dense where you can add things to it, right? So that's where I would recommend supplements, but you don't have to do that. So you'll see me posting some of my favorite smoothies and things like that. And I've been doing that for years, well before going vegan. And it's something that's very convenient and easy for people to do, because all you have to do is throw things in the blender. And that's why I recommend it, because it's convenient. And if you want some smoothie recipes, there's some on my channels. Check it if you're on YouTube. Check in my YouTube shorts. If you're on Instagram or Facebook, check somewhere on there. It's on there. And I'm gonna make a blog post with some smoothie things, because it's just easy. We need convenience. We want speed and convenience. And if you don't want to make it, there's plenty of places that will make you a smoothie. But make sure you got fruits and vegetables and minerals in your smoothies. That's all I'm saying. Don't just get a bunch of like the pre-made syrupy where they're just adding a bunch of sugar, but the sugar doesn't have like, it's like syrups and stuff and doesn't have any fiber. So just something to keep in mind. And you can expect more. I'll share more tips and stuff about that. But let me see. Other frequently asked questions. So I get a lot of questions about tofu. People don't, and they don't, and not being like, you don't want to get bored with what you eat. And this is what I have to say. Like, how much chicken are you eating every day? How much chicken and shrimp are you eating every day? You eat the same, like we do the same thing. You eat the same. Like, oh, well, I don't want to get bored. Like, but you be eating them wings though. But every day. So what you mean you're gonna get bored? Right. You're gonna find certain staples that you like, and then all you do is add different seasonings to it. It's the same thing. No tofu for you. Yeah, and I know a lot of people that don't consume tofu, and you don't have to consume tofu. If you want to be or need to be soy free, have allergens to soy, you don't have to consume it. And for a long time I didn't consume tofu. It wasn't until I learned how to prepare it in a way that I liked where I actually consumed it. And again, this is where it comes to, I mentioned in one of the tips of not knowing what to eat, where you have to test things out. You have to plan things out and test things out. And you're not going to know unless you try it. And sometimes it's about how it's prepared, baked versus fried versus air fried, sauteed versus what type of seasonings that you use, right? So no matter what it is. So that's something to keep in mind too. And this will adjust no matter how far along you are on your journey, right? So there's a lot of things that I used to do earlier on, and I've tried different things over the years. But keep in mind, there are a lot more options now than there was 11 years ago. Okay, there was a lot more options now. And I will I've done some grocery hauls on my Instagram. And I will be doing more grocery hauls where I'm showing some of the things that I'm either trying it for the first time, or things that I like, because I've had a lot of clients and people that just follow me in general that don't consume soy, and they need other options. So I do like to share that as well. Have a user made garbanzos as tofu? Yes. It's I've done that. So you can make what they call is like a chickpea tofu, or like you can also do it with lentils. You can take lentils. Red lentils have the best consistency in my opinion. Take that, boil it, blend it, and you can do the same thing. Whether it's with chickpeas, you use chickpea flour. So use garbanzo bean flour, And you can make that. And you can also just buy that in the store if you don't want to make it. That is true. That is true. More options. I wish the stores where I live will do better with foods. Yeah. So that's the thing. So back in the day, listen, it was hard out here in these streets. You couldn't just go to Target and just get all. The only option was like all there was tofu. Now there's all types of stuff, so it's a lot easier now. But yeah, stay tuned for more like grocery haul videos, and I'll share certain things that I do. Really, just going back to the basics. If you stick to the basics, so another thing, another comment, and I just have some like the frequently asked questions or common questions. And of course, if you have any questions while I'm here live, you can ask them, or if you're watching the replay, you can post them in the comments. Another thing is that it's expensive. It depends on how you go about doing it. Okay. And this is why I like to focus on, and what you'll see me focusing on is the basics. If you're going out to all these fancy restaurants, because now you can go so many different restaurants and eat out, and there's a vegan option. There's at least one. A lot of times there's two. That wasn't even an option back in the day, right? But if you're buying all these prepackaged products and stuff like that, yeah, it's gonna be expensive if that's what you're constantly buying. However, if it's something that it depends on what you want to invest in. Do you want to invest in convenience? Because sometimes that's what you need to be sustainable. And I mentioned earlier, one of the things I've done to maintain being vegan for 11 years has been I align my behaviors with my current situation. So right now, between work and I'm in school full time again, right? So I have a lot going on, right? I don't have time to cook the way I used to be able to cook a few years ago. So I make sure I have more convenient things that I can just reheat, things that I can that don't take long to make. I also have, if there's some places where I want to go and order food, like I already kind of know what these places are. But here's the other thing. Sometimes it's good to sometimes it's worth the money because it's going to keep you consistent. Because if you out here dropping stacks on going out to eat right now, if that's already your behavior before deciding to go vegan or whatever, okay. Like if you're already doing that now, what makes you think you're not going to do that once you go vegan? Like you see what I'm saying? Like the behaviors are still probably going to be there. It's just about how you decide to move forward with it. So by that meaning, sometimes it's worth it because you're going to be sustainable. So by that, I say this all the time. If you don't like chopping vegetables, I do not enjoy chopping vegetables. I do it sometimes or when I have to, but most of the times I will get pre-chopped vegetables, especially because if it's pre-chopped, I'm more likely to use it because all I have to do is toss it in the pan or season it up, clean it, toss it in the pan versus having to take it out, clean it, chop it, and do all this other stuff, right? So if paying that extra $1, if that is going to increase the possibility of you more than likely using that, then it's worth the money. Raise your hand if you have thrown away bags of spoiled spinach, bags of spoiled kale, because you got 3 bags of fresh kale, and then and it's been sitting there because you don't feel like de-stemming the kale and doing all of that, and then it goes bad. You just threw away $15 versus paying an extra $2 to get the pre-chopped stuff, or just get frozen, which I'm a huge advocate for frozen. So just get the frozen kale and just add that. And then this doesn't mean don't get the fresh stuff, but buy that in smaller batches so you're not wasting it. True, in all honesty, I found that I spend more on meats than veggies. Since I changed back, I see my grocery bill shifted. Yeah, and sometimes and it goes back to depending on like, yeah, sticking with what are going to be your basics, what are going to be your staples, and then going from there. But what are you more likely to consume a product if it's already pre-made? You probably will be, because there's less resistance. Yes, I've had to throw out veggies. I try to buy now for what I need for the week instead of buying for longer. I've been saving money, and yes, the frozen helps absolutely. So I say stack up on the frozen fruits and vegetables, and then yeah, buy for 1 to 2 weeks worth of fresh stuff. And I would say yeah, one week really. That will help you save money because you're not throwing food away. So just think about the long term, and think about just the long term investment, especially in the beginning. You want convenience. You need convenience when you want to be consistent. The more you can make something convenient, the more consistent that you're going to be. And I mentioned, um, if you're struggling, lack of consistency is one of the things. You're either unclear on your purpose, your environment is not conducive to what you're moving towards, or there's a lack of belief. So if you can make things more consistent, sometimes it is going to benefit you to put a little bit of more money up front, or what seems like it's more money, but a lot of time it breaks even, or you'll save money because you're not throwing stuff away. Um, yeah, I think that is it for the most common questions. So I've been talking about just sharing some advice and some of my experiences from being vegan for 11 years. Specifically for those of you that are either considering going vegan, or if you've been struggling, or if you're just curious about it and you want some of my advice. Yeah, I hope this was helpful. I do have a video that I made last year for my 10-year vegan anniversary up on my YouTube channel. So if you want to see that one, where I put some book recommendations, then you can check those out. And other than that, if you are interested in learning more, then subscribe to my newsletter. I will be sharing tips and stuff on there as well, along with some other stuff. And I do a bi-monthly newsletter. So I post, I send an email twice a month. And all that will link back to my blog, which is on ujowajet.com. Aside from that, you'll see more food haul videos and stuff like that. And yeah, just really just sharing some of my perspective for those that will find it helpful. Thank you for tuning in, and I will see y'all on the next one. Bye.